Welcome. We are going to start with two stories, incredible stories that are very exciting. I have to share, just happened. Okay, one of them just happened last Thursday, on Gimel Tammuz, which is somebody went to the resting place of the Lubavitcher Rebbe. He's a trumpet player, okay, and he decided he wants to leave his band, the traveling band, so that he could start keeping Shabbos. Okay,
Mm.
he wants to keep the Sabbath, and to do that, he can't be in his band anymore and play anymore, which he really loved and wanted to be part, but he wanted to keep Shabbos. So he asked the Rebbe to give him strength to be able to take on this resolution and be able to do it and give up this wonderful band. So he prayed, and he also prayed for, guess what? He prayed for a shidduch because he's divorced. He only had one child. He was hoping to get another, get married again. So he comes out of the prayer place, the resting place there. He's still in the gravesite, and there's grass around the graveyard, in the graveyard. And he looks down at the floor, and he notices there's a piece of paper there. And there's a picture of a trumpet on the piece of paper. And he looks at it. It's a wedding invitation. Somebody had put a wedding invitation on one of the grave sites of somebody. Okay, he didn't know who or what, but all he knew, he had prayed to be able to stop playing the trumpet on Shabbos, and he had prayed that he should get married. And here he gets, as soon as he walks out of the grave, he's still in the graveyard. He's on the floor on the grass, and he posted, okay, I saw this on Rabbi Shestov's Instagram. He posted a picture of the invitation with the trumpet on the floor. Okay, they put it on Instagram. I saw it on Instagram, okay? and I look at the comments because I'm like blown away by this story. So what's the comments? One woman posts, oh, I was at the wedding last Monday. Another woman posts, that was my daughter's wedding. I put the wedding invitation and my grandfather's grave to invite him to the wedding. And somehow it flew exactly to the place where he was walking out of the Rebbe's gravesite. So here he got another miracle, another sign. So anyway, so I posted, my picture with my veil on, and I said, and I wrote to him, I just got married and my husband plays the saxophone.
My grandson is a worldwide trumpeter. He's a traveling trumpeter, so that's why I was like tearing up. Yeah.
Right. Yes. So wow. Yes. So I immediately put a follow for him on Instagram. I'm gonna have in mind for him for a shidduch. I'm gonna keep my eyes open to find out more information before I suggest anybody.
Find out more. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
That's an amazing story.
Yes.
Beautiful.
Yes. So that's just happened Thursday, 2 days ago. Okay.
Wow.
Miracles happen. So that was one story. Okay, now another story from the Rebbe. This is from many years ago when the Rebbe was handing out dollars on Sundays.
Yeah.
And the woman who told the story, so this woman her name is Esther Sternberg. She's the woman who would stand by the Rebbe for hours and hours and hours and help the women in the line. So she said sometimes like a woman would come to get $1 and the Rebbe would speak to her or look at her and she would get an answer or she would get a blessing that she was like too stunned to even move, and she would just stand there and freeze. So it was her job to kind of like escort the line so that people could go along and move along so everyone's time wouldn't be wasted. So, and she did this, she did this volunteer because she felt, it was a big merit for her to be able to be in that position. She had started it years ago when Rabbi Gorner just asked her for a favor. He said, I need help, but the women need help. The line needs to move. Can you help me out? And she did this while she was pregnant, 9 months pregnant in the heat. She wouldn't go away for the summer. She was just like, that was her big merit. Anyway, so one story, she said that I just listened to a podcast. She's told this story. I heard it from her in her own words. And she said one time a woman came to get $1 or a blessing. People came for the blessing, wasn't for the $1. The goal was the blessing. The $1 was just the medium of giving tzedakah. The Rebbe would give $1 so that they could put in the tzedakah box afterwards, and that would be a merit. The Rebbe always liked to tie things with action. You're coming to me. I'm going to make you a messenger to give tzedakah, and then you're my messenger and you're going to do a good deed. So that was the goal. Okay. So, oh, somehow I didn't go live. Hold on. I'm putting on live on Facebook. Okay, so here's a great story told by Esther Sternberg. She was standing by the Lubavitch Rebbe for many years, one time to help the woman going for dollars and getting blessings. And one time a woman came who was wearing like 2 head coverings. So she was from like Williamsburg or Borough Park or some other, very observant community, very considered themselves very religious or very adhering to the rules and the laws of Torah, right? And this woman comes for a blessing from the Rebbe. She's obviously not a follower of the Rebbe, but she believed, I guess, in the righteous holy man giving blessings, and she needed a blessing for her son to have a speedy recovery. And she said, Rebbe, my son's very sick and I need a blessing. So the Rebbe said, have his mezuzah in his room checked. Okay? And she was like, oh, Rebbe, I'm an observant woman. The mezuzahs in my home are kosher, So the Rebbe said, if your son is not well, you need to have the mezuzah in his room checked.
Right.
And she was like, but I'm sure it's good. And she came for a blessing. She didn't come for an instruction. And she wanted her blessing, and she wasn't getting the blessing. The Rebbe gave her an instruction. You have to have it checked. And she was disappointed. She was like a little upset, but that was it. Mrs. Sternberg, had to like escort her out, but Mrs. Sternberg felt sorry for her. And she said to her on the side, she said to her, listen, the Rebbe knows what he's talking about. If he says you need to have your mezuzah checked, please do me a favor. Don't just dismiss it. The Rebbe knows, he sees. Have your mezuzah of his room checked. So the woman was visibly upset, and she went home, but she did come back 2 weeks later, and she was even more upset. She came back, she said, Rebbe, I had my mezuzah, my son's rooms checked. The sofer said everything was fine. And I came for a blessing for my son, so he should have a speedy recovery. He needs a refuah shalema. So the Rebbe said to her, he should have his mezuzah in his room checked again. And she was like, what? We already checked it with the sofer. He said, it's fine. And he said, no, if he's not feeling well and he's still sick, he needs the mezuzah checked again. And she was like arguing. She was visibly upset. And he said, I don't know if it went twice or 3 times, but the Rebbe was adamant. It can't be that he's not well and his mezuzah is fine. If he's not well, you need to do the mezuzah again.
Okay.
So this woman left. She didn't even take the $1 from the Rebbe that he would give her to that because she was so upset with the Rebbe. And Mrs. Sternberg went up to her again. Please, she said to her, do it again. She said, you're a religious woman. Everybody sees. The sofer probably saw the mezuzah, knows you. He didn't do a good job checking it. He just checked it 1, 2, 3. Take it to a mezuzah, to a sofer who doesn't know who you are. He'll do a real thorough check from beginning to end and see if there's any problems. So
wow.
3 weeks later, the lady comes back. And this time she's smiling and she's happy and she's thankful. And her son is recovered. And she said they took it to a second sofer. She did what Mrs. Sternberg told her. And there was a letter missing in the mezuzah to begin with. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So,
that's the coolest story.
Yes. Told by Esther Sternberg herself. She lives in Crown Heights. I know her. I've heard many stories from her. My teacher, Blazemanis, knew her father in Russia. In World War I, World War, until my teacher was taken to jail. Prison, he knew him in Russia till 1935, from 1917 to 1935. I mean, her father was a big donor, and he would sponsor all the boys, the yeshiva boys, to be able to travel to the Rebbe then during the holiday season. So yeah, sponsored the boys in the yeshiva to be able to travel to.
Wow. My husband got to meet the Rebbe in 1987.
Yes.
And I say he shook his hand, he gave him $1, asked him his purpose. And me and my twin sister, Sherry, may she rest in peace, on stage, we always said, he pulled him down and he said, you have to save the Rosenblum twins from each other. Right. That was what the Rebbe said to my husband.
Wow.
That's not what he said, but that was our joke. It was really, really fun.
I want you to tell that to me again. I was a little distracted. I didn't hear your whole story because I just saw this Hannah Ginsburg. Welcome, Hannah, on the live video, but it's not the Hannah Ginsburg
Oh.
That's why I got a little confused. I was like, oh, Hannah Ginsburg. No. Anyway, welcome, Hannah Ginsburg. Okay, so those are two stories. The first one, just happened Gimel Tammuz, the trumpet player. Okay, remember, you could tell that story on. And the second one was something that happened many years ago, but I just heard it also on Gimel Tammuz. So
Sorry.
yes, I had personally another story. My husband and I went to somebody's house. They had 44 mezuzahs, all beautiful, amazing mezuzahs, all kosher, 100% kosher. But guess
Wow.
two mezuzahs in the backyard, the plugs on the bottom got somehow loosened up and fell out, and the mezuzahs fell out and were gone, missing. So they had two mezuzahs in their home missing that they didn't know about. We don't know for how long.
Wow.
So so that's why if somebody, even though they have them checked often, as frequently as possible. I met another person in the last couple of weeks who told me he has his mezuzahs checked twice a year. I was like, what? I've never met anybody like that. But he says, yeah, he says, it's a good insurance policy. He's had many health miracles. And he says, I go to the doctor often, I'm going to have my mezuzahs checked often.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So anyway, it's exciting. It's an exciting thing to be involved in, and to make sure see that people really getting the spiritual worlds connected to the physical worlds. And that's the whole point, is God created a physical world, so it would bring spirituality into the physical. And it's so well seen when you in a mezuzah, because a mezuzah is a physical object that we took just plain objects, ink, parchment, and we transformed them into a holy artifact, so holy that it has an influence on us. It affects us, and our spiritual life and our physical life and everything is enhanced and affected because of this mitzvah that we did. But we created the holiness in it. We made it holy. So it's an embodiment of the power of the human being to bring spirituality into the physical. That God gave us this power to create something that has an effect on us. So it's very, very potent. It's similar to like a Sefer Torah. It's similar to a, tefillin, and it's one of the mitzvahs that it says a long life for you and your children. The tefillin and the mezuzah.
Did it come from, may I ask a question?
Yeah, sure.
Did it come from the Machat B'Chorot, when we put something over our door? So
Yes.
is that where the mezuzah came from?
Well, so the mitzvah mezuzah started from Mount Sinai when God gave the Torah. But yes, there is that connection, because when they did put the sign on their doors, then that was a sign that they believed in Hashem. That they trust, that they were Jews, they believe in Hashem, they believe in God. That was the first time that they had to put something on their doors, but they didn't put an actual mezuzah.
No, they didn't. They put the blood.
Yeah. Actually,
but it's a connection.
Given at Mount Sinai with all the other mitzvahs.
Yeah, very cool.
With Torah, yes. So, okay, I'm going to bring a very profound thing from the Rebbe that it's blown me away. This sikha. It's the sikha from Parsha of Korach, the Rebbe is talking about miracles, and he's talking about the miracles that happen on Gimel Tammuz, the 3rd of Tammuz. Okay, there's 3 basic miracles that he talks about that happened on Gimel Tammuz, on the 3rd of Tammuz. And this Rebbe's, the Rebbe's day where his soul ascended was on Gimel Tammuz, where the Rebbe's actually started a new level of revelation in this world on the 3rd of Tammuz. So it's not an end of anything; it's a beginning of a revelation on a very, very profound high level this day. So, but this day, the Rebbe already spoke about it in 1991. He also spoke about it in 1980 something, 1885, I believe. In a very, very amazing way, and he explained the concept of how miracles take place. And he asks the question, why do miracles happen the way they happen, and that they take time, or go in stages, or go in a natural order of things? He brings 3 types of miracles, and he shows how each one of them went in stages and went within the order of the world. And he asked, why did God do it that way? God could have made just one big, huge miracle, and it could have happened in an instant. And why did God make it take time? and in stages and within order. So I'll give you the examples that the Rebbe brings. The first one is that happened on Gimel Tammuz, the 3rd of Tammuz, was the miracle of the sun stood still so the Jews could fight the battle in the times of Joshua. So Joshua is fighting a battle to protect the Jewish people, and they saw that if the sun would set, they wouldn't be able to finish the war, they wouldn't be able to get all their enemies to run away on time. So God did a miracle, and Joshua asked the sun to stop in the heavens, which meant not just the sun, but also the moon, and the Rebbe says probably all the rest of the constellations of all the other orbits of all the other planets, everything had to stand still, so to give the Jews time to fight the war and finish the battle before dark. So the question is, the Rebbe says, God could have just made a miracle that they would just finish the battle in an instant, a second, and blown everything out of the water, and then why did he have to go through this trouble of having Joshua stop the sun, and then they still had to continue fighting the war and continue running after their enemies and continue, it's a lot of exertion, to fight a battle and to, fight for a few more hours and, struggle and battle. What for? God could have taken care of it in a second. So that's the first miracle that it brings, Gimel Tammuz. Second miracle that happened, not in Gimel Tammuz, I'm sorry, it happened in this parsha, this week's Torah portion, the portion of Korach. That's the week that the Gimel Tammuz takes place on, in that Torah portion of that week. What happened? It was a miracle. People were saying, who said that Aaron is supposed to be the high priest? They were saying, yeah, he's your brother, right? To Moses. Who said you guys should be the leaders? Why should he be more than us? Okay, so there's a lot of levels to this story, but the point that the Rebbe brings in this talk about the miracles is he focuses on the miracle. God said, I'll do a miracle, and I'll show you that Aaron is the one who's supposed to be the high priest. And he said all leaders should bring their staffs. All 12 tribes leaders brought their staffs. They wrote their name on it. Aaron put his name on the staff, and they put it in the tabernacle in front of the Aron Kodesh, in front of the holy Aaron. And God said, there'll be a miracle take place, and that will show to everyone that Aaron was chosen. So what happened? They come the next morning and they see all the staffs, there were wood staffs, were normal. Aaron's staff had a miracle happen to it. It had flowers, it had buds, and it had almonds. So people could see, wow, overnight, the staff, which was not connected to the ground, all of a sudden had almonds coming out of it. So the Rabbi asks the question, why did the miracle also take place in stages? First the flowers, and then the buds, and then the almonds. And later on it says the staff was taken and placed forever for the Jews to see this miracle took place, and it was kept with the Aaron when they built the Holy Temple. They put it in there, and times before the destruction of the second temple, of the first temple, I'm sorry, Yirmiyah actually was not the staff. He showed the Tzinsenet Haman. He showed they also preserved a little piece of man in a jar. And he showed the Jewish people was also to teach them a lesson, to teach them they can trust in God. God gave them man in the desert, he could take care of everybody. So there was similar to that was the staff is also to remember that God is in control and God can give sustenance, because the staff also sprouted an almond, okay, almonds. So almonds are food. So it was also kept to remind the Jews that God can take care of them, give sustenance, and give sustenance quickly. The staff had the extra measure of, and that's why they kept the staff with the flowers, the buds, and the almonds to show that the process of the food coming can happen very quickly. So the question is, though, the Rebbe asks, why did they have to have the process of even the flowers and the buds? God could have made an immediate miracle. The staff puts out almonds. Why do we need the flowers and the buds and the almonds? So that's similar to the first question that we had. And the third instance, okay, we're going to get to the answer soon. The third instance was when the Jews were 1927 in Russia, and the communists took over and said no Jews can teach and learn Torah, and anybody spreading the wellsprings of Hasidus or teaching any Torah are subject to a lot of harassment, persecution, jail, and possible death. And that's what happened. I know my teacher, Rebbe Nanes, was 20 years in Siberia because he was helping the previous Lubavitch Rebbe. And many Hasidim at that time were taken and they were jailed and they never came back, many of them. Rebbe told me 90% of them didn't come back from the Gulag. Anyway, the Lubavitch Rebbe himself, the previous Lubavitch Rebbe, was taken in 1927 and jailed. And on the 3rd of Tammuz, he was released from jail. However, it wasn't a complete miracle because he was sent to exile. And he was told he was going to be in exile for 3 years. It turned out in the end, there was another miracle on the 12th and 13th of Tammuz, he was told, and he was released actually by the Russians. And then later on, he was told he has to leave the country. And then later on, years later, all the rest of the Jews were able to leave the country. But in the meantime, there was stages to this miracle. On Gimel Tammuz, it was very confusing. The Rebbe was released from jail, but he was placed in exile, sent to exile to a faraway, distant place where he would be distant from the Hasidim. And then later on, he was then sent out of Russia, so that Hasidim couldn't see him at all. And there were many Jews still left in Russia being persecuted, so by the communists. So that wasn't a full and complete miracle until years later, when all the Jews were released from Russia, and not only they were released in a way that they were given help. So the Rebbe says, why also? You see another instance where you have the miracle happening in stages. So why is that happening? And the Rebbe parallels this also to a more philosophical question, not that that's not a philosophical question, but another concept in creation. When God created the world, it says that God created the world in such a way, Chassidus explains, from nothing to something. And God created in such a way that in order for the nothing to be existent in something, we're talking about absolute nothingness. We're not talking about a world that was created from something before, something from something. From absolute nothingness, God's life force needs to be in the world, giving it creative power and creating the world anew at every moment in order for it to be able to exist. So, and Chassidus explains this at length. We're not going to go into this whole philosophical thing, but the Rebbe does ask, why did God create the world in such a way that we need God's life force to make the world exist at every moment? Why didn't God create the world in such a way that at the beginning of creation, there was enough energy given that it will sustain the world and keep the world with that first power of energy to begin with, and not need to be recreated every second with God's energy, God's life force every moment? So the answer to all three questions is basically the same concept. Okay, so I'll first answer the philosophical one of creating the world at a moment so that we don't lose that thought, okay? When God creates the world every moment, and he gives his new life force into the world, what that enables us to be in a state of being able to be aware and conscious and feeling and experiencing God give us this new life force at every moment, creating the world anew at every moment. We can be present with that in every moment, the Rebbe says, and in every detail of our lives. So God is giving us an opportunity to connect to God with that experience God on that level of being given something anew at every moment, being given our life and our existence at every moment, and it gives us the opportunity to reveal that to the world, that God is giving us this life force and existence at every moment. And this adds in our ability to reveal God's glory in the world. So at every moment and in every little detail of our life. So the Rebbe says God did it for us. God wanted us to feel and have this experience of this newness, and that we're part of the process of this experience of revealing God in the world, which gives us, he says, pleasure. That we're taking part in this. We're helping the revealed godliness that's taking place at every moment. And that makes us feel very, very good about our position over here. So it gives us that empowerment of being part of the creative process, part of revealing godliness at every moment and every little detail, which is a mind-boggling thought. God did it for us, the Rebbe says, to give us this opportunity. It's an amazing, amazing thought. So now, how's this with the miracles? Why did God do the miracles that way also? He did it for us. We're living in the world that has rules of nature and limitations, and we're, physical bodies with physical brains and physical experiences, and God created the world with the order of nature or laws of the world, laws of nature. So when God makes a miracle, he'll make a miracle to help us with our job of living in the world as we know it, in the world of nature. Okay, so let's go to the miracle of making the sun stand still by Joshua. Joshua got help from above, a miracle, to help him do his job of fighting the war. So he still needed to fight the war, and he was able to fight the war and be victorious and lead the Jewish people to victory, and they did their part, but God assisted them with the miracle. God didn't just blow everything out of the water and make everything happen for them. This is an idea that, in general, the Rebbe has been bringing in the last few weeks of the Sichos of 1991. This is what I'm teaching you from the Dvar Malchus of 1991. This concept that God wants us to do our part in revealing godliness in the world. God is not going to save some victims, and bring, smashing, a huge miracle that just blows us out of the water. We're part of this process of revealing God in the world. We go through life as we know it, with the laws of nature, and we have that power, though, to reveal God in our every moment and every detail of our life, which is an amazing, amazing capacity that we have. And it's also knowing that we're doing it is important, because a lot of people may misunderstand and think, if Mashiach is coming, God's going to make it happen in a miraculous way. I could just sit back and relax and wait for it to happen. And the Rebbe says, no, that's not the way it's happening. The way it's happening is through us at every moment revealing God in every opportunity that we have, every moment and in every detail of our lives. And all the talks that the Rebbe gives us how to reveal God in every detail of time, place, and personal experiences. So within ourselves, our own soul work, getting to know ourselves and using all our talents and our feelings, our emotions, our thoughts, our instincts for godliness, experiencing every moment. And that's why the Rebbe really reveals, every time he spoke, he connected the time that we're in. So to be conscious of time, and the Rebbe connected his talks to details of how we are to do our job of revealing God in the world. And the details encompass people around us, encompass the world around us. It encompasses things that we wouldn't expect to be a part of the revelation of God in the world. The Rebbe wants us to think big and out of the box, and how to be revealing God in every little detail of the world possible. Okay, so that's our job as Hasidim. Okay, so now let's go to the next miracle, the miracle of the staff. Now it'll be easy to already transport this idea. The miracle of the staff also. The staff didn't happen with one miracle that there was all of a sudden a bud, all of a sudden an almond growing from it. God showed that the miracle was happening in stages, in the laws of nature. There's first a fruit, then a bud, and then the meaning. God says when we do our work to bring parnasa, to bring livelihood, we need to do our part. We need to work. We need to make a vessel. We need to take action and make the vessel, make the possibility for us to make the parnasa. But knowing at the same time that it's God who's going to make the livelihood work. It's God who can speed things up in a miraculous way. So it says in everything that we do also, we need to do our part, but we can know God can give us the ability to make it really fast, miraculously fast, like the overnight budding, but it's with taking the steps necessary to do it, but knowing that God is going to make it happen in a miraculous way. So that was the second miracle. And the third miracle was now also with the Lubavitcher Rebbe in 1927, when he came out of jail. And it was a big miracle. They wanted to take away his life, and they actually took it back, which was one miracle. And then they sent him to exile, and then he was released from exile. And he was released much quicker than it was expected. That was another miracle. The Rebbe says the miracle also was that it didn't happen with the full swoop, like an angel from heaven took him out of the Rebbe didn't say this, I'm adding this. It didn't happen in some sort of dramatic Hollywood way. It happened that the Russians actually put it in their paperwork, and it was an order and from the KGB. And it was something that took place in the natural order of things, and they agreed to it. And so the Russians themselves agreed to it, that he needed to be released and he needed to go back home, and then out of Russia, where he was actually a free man. So God made the miracle happen within the rules and laws of nature, that nature agreed to it and helped and assisted with it, right? The Russians, the world assisted with that. Similar, the Rebbe says, was when the Jews came out of Egypt. Also, God did a tremendous amount of miracles, right? But when it actually came to leaving Egypt, not the Russians, the Egyptians assisted them in leaving, and they gave them money, and they poured on them extra money, more than they asked for, and they let them go out. Okay, later on they ran after them, but that's another story. But the miracle took place within the world as we know it, and they helped them leave. So they actually had to pack their bags, get their stuff together, get their feet up, their walking sticks, and get out. So it was within the rules and laws of nature, and the Egyptians were part of the miracle, helping it happen. So that is a lesson for us, services, to do our job, do our part, reveal godliness in every moment and every detail, but knowing that it's God's performing miracles for us, and things can happen in a miraculous way. The God's assistance was miraculous. We need to do it within the realm of and the order of nature, do things normally, but God can make it happen speedily and in a miraculous way. So do you want to ask any questions? Okay. Let me just see if I should add one more thing. We have a few more minutes. Okay, one of the final things that the Rebbe does say in this talk, I'm going to bring it here because the Rebbe brought it in context. He says, we're getting close to the summer. So a practical thing to do, the Rebbe said, is to help children who are not necessarily going to go to a Jewish camp, go to a Jewish camp. And when they're in a Jewish camp, to utilize their time to learn about God as much as possible. That's a practical suggestion he made, a request. And then the other thing that the Rebbe mentioned, I don't think it was here, is to make sure that they get as much Torah and Judaism as possible when they're young. It's something that the Rebbe pushed and asked and requested and wrote about and discussed many, many times, that children, when they're young and they're vulnerable and they're open and they're holy and they're receptive, is the best time to give them as much holiness as possible and much Torah, much connection to God, much direction of Torah and mitzvahs, and teaching them about Torah and mitzvahs as possible, and to utilize that time. And the Rebbe was very much against pouring secular studies into kids that had nothing to do with their Judaism, and to make secular studies more important than Torah studies. The Rebbe really wanted the childhood to be utilized for teachings of Torah and teaching about mitzvahs. And I'm just going to add my own little thought to that we see now a lot of the stuff that kids learn when they're little, that we think is going to help them with make a living and going to help them get by in life, and it's necessary tools for being able to make it in the world, is a whole bunch of garbage. It's not true. We see, it's the college graduates aren't the one who are making the money, and it's not with the AI tools and everything on the internet. I knew a woman who had spent over $100,000 learning how to be a photographer. She went to college, university to get all the necessary skills to be a photographer. And guess what? In her lifetime, that became obsolete. It was a waste of $100,000 because she, a digital camera came out, and she, everything was, all the tools that she had learned how to do manually were all on everybody's phone, and even better. So the Rebbe had a vision. He had a vision. Be careful. Be very conscious. What are the tools that you're giving your kids for life? What do they really need? Okay, and that's what I'm going to leave you off with. Food for thought. And if you have any questions, you can look me up. My website is beischana.weebly.com. Beischana is BAISCHANA. CA is for California. .weebly.com, and you can text me connect with me. My email is basechana770@gmail.com. I'm still on Facebook at S. Yehudit Eichenblad, and I'm Yehudit Wolf now. I'm on Instagram as Yehudit Eichenblad still, but there's many ways you can connect with me, and I'll be happy to add you to the WhatsApp so you can hear about the Zooms, etc. Take care. Be well. All the best. Thank you, Tracy. Thank you for your love.
Thank you.
All the best. Oh, Julie's here. I didn't see you. I'm sorry. I would have said, oh, I see there's more people on. I'm so sorry. I was busy talking. And welcome also, Lana. Oh, I'm sorry. Do you have any questions?
Thank you, Yehuda.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Yidis.
You're welcome. You're welcome. So good to see you, Julie. And if you could still ask me if you want. I'm still.
Well, I have a question
Yeah.
actually.
Okay.
I was taking in my notes. I was looking, let's see when we find. Within the rules and laws of nature and the Egyptians helped. Those two things about the third miracle.
Okay. Say again your question. I wasn't.
Regarding the third miracle, it had to do with within the rules and laws of nature, and the Egyptians helped out or something. You said something.
Okay. So the third miracle was with the previous Lubavitch Rebbe in 1927. So it was a
Right.
miracle, but it was in stages. It wasn't all at once. And what happened is in the end, it wasn't like he was like, airlifted out of the prison and with some heavenly sphere, angel. He was actually, what happened is that they actually released him. So the miracle took place within nature where the Russians agreed that he had to be released. And it was in their rules. It was written in their, they had an order that was written by the KGB or whoever it was that arrested him, it was the KGB, and they released him. So that's this nature, it happened within nature, and it was, that the world agreed to it. So it wasn't just God blew the thing out of it. The miracle was revealed within the world as we know it, within the rules of nature. And he had to actually get on a train, and he actually there was another amazing story when he was told that he could leave. It was Shabbos, and he says, I'm not going to leave on Shabbos. I'm not going to travel on Shabbos. And so the Russians said, okay, so then you're not going to be able to leave at all. If you don't leave you don't leave when we tell you, you're going to get stuck here in exile. And he said, I'm sorry, I listen to God. I'm not moving on Shabbos. And they agreed to it in that. They still released him the day after Shabbos. On Sunday, they let him go. But that was like, it happened within his world, the way God created him, with the rules of Torah, with the rules of nature, but the miraculous thing was that they agreed to it. So, and the same thing with later on, when all the Jews left Russia, which was also after 70 years of not being allowed to leave Russia, they were all of a sudden allowed. Not only were they allowed, but they were assisted by the Russian government to leave. So that was a miracle, but it took time until everybody was released. And then, so the same thing is or similar, the Rebbe says, was in Egypt. When the Jews left Egypt, so also they weren't airlifted with some helicopter in times of the Egyptians. They had to actually get up and leave, but the Egyptians assisted them. They gave them money. They gave them things to take with them. So that was like, it was within the world of nature, changing the reality of the world. So the same thing as the Rebbe is saying in our times, we're going to be bringing miracles, and we are bringing miracles, but it takes in stages, and we're part of the process. We have to keep doing our part, and we're making the miracles happen within our world. So we can't just passively sit by and wait for God to swoop us out of our misery, right? Whatever it is, or our problems, or any problem that we have, or any obstacle. It's our opportunity and our gift to make the changes in the world that we're in and everything that we're encountering. Make it better and reveal Hashem in that moment.
Thank you.
Yeah, but you could ask me if you have another question. You can ask. Yeah. So yeah, I also posted I post the recordings of this usually if it comes out good on the Beis Chana channel on YouTube. So you can subscribe to that if you'd like and get the recordings that come out of these classes.
How do you subscribe to the Beis Chana channel?
You just go to YouTube and you search Beis Chana, and then There's a couple Beis Chanas. The one that has my picture from 7 years ago.
Oh, okay.
That's the one you subscribe to. Yeah.
Okay, okay.
Yes. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you for
Thank you so
joining.
much.
Take care.
Okay.
Be well.